So the results are in for the In-Comm Training Barometer 2024. I'm here today with Paul Hodgetts, who's Business Development Manager for In-Comm. I'm Gareth Jones, Managing Director for In-Comm. It's designed to take the temperature of BT's industry and how it's aligned to training and development of existing and future talent pools. There's been three key findings from this year's barometer and they've been quite profound. Number one was inflation hasn't impacted the commitment for developing future talent. Number two was the disparity between government support nationally and also through devolution, the support that's regional to really hit the spots that's needed. And number three was around the engagement in artificial intelligence and the ramp up and engagement in Industry 4.0 activities. So in the report this time, over 70% of organisations said there's not enough government support to support their training and development of talent. So there seems to be a disparity between national government strategy and regionalised devolution strategies. So when you look nationally, you've got things like T-levels, swaps, boot camps, apprenticeships, BTECs, etc. And then you come down regionally and ever we seen individuals accessing apprenticeships, Paul?
Interesting one with the findings that we've had this year, because we're seeing good candidates and prospective learners who are into engineering and manufacturing, definitely want to go into apprenticeships, but are having challenges getting into those because of what they've done at GCSE and A-level, which proves challenging as a provider to pull down funding.
So have they been given inferior career education on the courses that they're going on that impacts them all?
I think it comes back to the first point. I think it's just that not joined up approach where they're probably getting mixed advice from parents, from schools, from advisors. And it's good because they're on to engineering and manufacturing, they're studying it, they're doing it, but that is also proving difficult, as I said, from a provider's point of view, to access apprenticeship sometimes.
It's a very complex field, isn't it? And a very complex system. And, sometimes providers struggle to understand it. So then how do as industry and learners actually understand the wheres and beings? So if we just look at engineering manufacturing at the moment, if an individual comes out of GCSE and goes straight onto a full-time knowledge BTEC, that impacts them then accessing an apprenticeship.
In terms of, well, for us as a provider, it makes it challenging to get the funding because so much funding's already been used for that learner. Going back to the positives, it's great that learners in the region want to go into engineering manufacturing.
Yeah.
However, apprenticeships are a really good route for many of our learners.
Yeah.
Learning, no debt, employed, getting qualifications. But we've got to overcome these challenges and have, I think the very first bit, that joined up approach to ensure that we can service the learners well.
And this is a key message that I think we need to get out there, and how important STEM engagement and advice and guidance is for learners.
100%, yeah.
So we had an example the other week where we had a learner that's come out with an aeronautical BTEC, which is a good standard of qualification, then wanting to access an apprenticeship. But because the qualifications within the apprenticeship didn't marry up to the aeronautical,
that's it.
We have to drop the funding but still have to deliver the full apprenticeship. So that makes it challenging for providers to be able to work in that space when you're dropping your funding even more at a time when resource, it's expensive to deliver what we do. So that's actually impacting individuals accessing the career choices through their education pathway that they want to achieve. 30% of companies have said that they've actually engaged in modularised training. Yeah. That was one of the biggest things to come out of last year's barometer. But over 80%, so that means 70% aren't engaged, but over 80% of respondees said actually if there was funding available, I would engage. So is industry actually waiting for the government to do something about the skills gaps rather than taking their own initiative and resources?
The stat would say so. We've seen a big shift in the modularised training away from kind of long apprenticeships to upskill current staff. People are operating leaner, or people don't want to be releasing people.
It's one of the biggest barriers to engagement is finding in the report.
The funding and releasing people.
Releasing people.
Yeah. I think people want to get this, there's a gap and there's a skills need and they want it done quick and I'm not saying that's the right way always, because you can't upskill people and get new skills and behaviours in 3-4 days.
No, but the interventions can be a lot smaller and more impactful maybe. So before, instead of doing like a whole HNC over 2 years, and there's 8 modules, you pick the module that's most relevant to that individual at that specific period of time.
And with the West Midlands Combined Authority funding that we've recently won, those HNC units have been used for exactly that: finding staff, targeting the needs and putting them on short, sharp training to get them the skills and qualifications that they want.
So how do we get more of industry infused and engaged into these modularised offerings to try and be more impactful and deliver competence quickly?
I think for us, we always see a real good uptake and interest around when people have heard about it and seen it hands-on, case studies, and people hearing about it and seeing what differences it's made in other companies, and then going, yeah, we want a bit of that.
Sharing best practice.
Sharing best practice, seeing what other people are doing, because it does have an impact, and it is quite an easy route into training without the barriers. You're not losing people for a couple of years. You're not having to pay money for it, and it is hitting the training needs that you wanted.
And with the redevelopment of the HNCs going over to HTQs, which is higher technical quals, which are being released in September, the modularised elements, you can still gain your credits for those modules, and over a longer period of time still get an overall qual. But I think it's definitely a shift at the minute that the qualification isn't necessarily the driver anymore, as where it used to be. You looked at a CV and you look at the qualifications.
Yeah.
Now it's more around competence. Can they do the job? And we've identified an offering in an OEM, a first tier supplier in the aerospace sector, where individuals have got to have a set level of qual to be able to access jobs.
Yeah.
And we are plugging that gap, aren't we, in terms of delivering NVQs, which are competency-based qualifications, to get these people into high-level advanced manufacturing jobs.
Yeah, I think that's where In-Comm have been brilliant in years gone by at finding solutions for issues, and nothing more than the programme that we've just developed in partnership with DWP and West Midlands Combined Authority, Collins Aerospace, where we've condensed a big qualification, a level 3 machinist, to take people out of work, give them the skills and the competencies and the qualifications that give them that almost that passport to be able to go and work in these organisations.
And that's what it is, because the nuances of every company are different. So it's understanding their needs and then aligning what you can do to overcome that barriers and delivering the interventions to get these people into jobs.
Without watering it down, especially, the courses we're delivering are robust and giving the skills and competencies that they need.
Recent barometers have been based around Industry 4.0 and the generation of data, digitising systems to make more informed choices. Have you seen that engagement grow inside the SME micro businesses?
We have seen it grow in recent years, but that 6% stat of companies not using AI, not engaging with our AI, isn't surprising. But there are a lot of conversations taking place. So I think fast forward 12 months when we're sitting here next year, you'd think that stat will have grown, that percentage will have been a bigger increase.
Yeah, and when you look at inside an educational establishment as well, when you've got ChatGPT, plagiarism comes into play and so on. And I was at an event the other day when they were talking around speaking to this automated system to say, design me X, Y or Z.
Yeah.
And we can't take that human element out. It's got to have checkpoints to ensure that this is being done. So I think we see it going on the same trajectory as, because once you've generated the data and we can make more informed decisions, it's then automating some of those decision making. We're using it in our business already, inside our management system, the digitised management system that we're developing. And again, I think it's only going to add value for us moving forward.
100%. Quicker decisions, more accurate decisions based on data can only help us and all companies.
In the barometer, only 30% of organisations have said they're struggling to retain staff, which is quite an outstanding fact considering the rates of inflation, wage inflation, etc. And then you look at the correlation between companies investing and continue to invest and not reduce their training budgets or be invested by inflation. I think there's definitely a piece to be said there that the more you invest in your workforce, the more likely you are to retain them.
And we see that day to day. Companies investing in their infrastructure, within their staff productivity. Companies that are retaining their staff and just growing that internal skill base is seeing not only an increase in kind of winning work and retaining staff and a culture within the business, but also that ability to not have the issues of attracting talent or recruitment.
Because recruitment, retention and attraction has been challenging over the last few years. I don't think there's
more
any
challenging than any other period, I would
part
say.
of the business. Yeah, exactly. But judging by the barometer results, I think there's seen a slowdown in that now. We're getting some more standardisation, settlement in the market, and I hope that continues to be the case.
For us, it's great as an apprenticeship provider as well. So when we're going out to businesses and these apprentices who've got mentors within the business who are stable, who've worked in the business for a long time, that's a great message to send our young people. Not only have they got a stable mentor, but also this is a place where you're going to do 5, 10, 15, 20 years within it.
And grow within the business and be open to opportunities. Reshoring has been quite a topic as well, especially coming out of the pandemic. I know we've got to leave that behind us, but it's gone down even further. The stats now of companies that are actually reshoring work down to 16%. So that means 84% of organisations are not engaging in reshoring. But don't you think we should be looking at nearshoring and working with local supply chains, trying to win work locally, or trying to win work back from turbulent regions in the world?
We should be, 100%. And I have to admit, that stat was a little bit surprising because when you're going around to local companies, we are seeing that companies have benefited from reshoring, but the barometer says not. That stat doesn't lie.
And it says in the barometer again that a lot of companies don't think that they've got the skills to be able to reshore. Now, I'm not sure if that's bandwidth and capacity, or actually they have to farm out some of the work because they haven't got that skill base. So, it's almost like we've got to start looking at these gaps of competence within organisations, not what they've got now, but what they need to be able to take these opportunities.